Welcome to Drinks Coach. Yes, it's me, Joe Wadsack. Hi. Series 2, episode 29. You're watching the Drinks Coach on YouTube. Hit the bell, subscribe, get notifications. Support me, please. I'm trying to grow this. If you like it and you think that I offer something slightly different, please support me this year. It's very important to me. Also, Vinesack, at Vinesack is my moniker if you want to talk to me about any old thing, really, on Instagram. You can get me on Facebook. That's also my whatever they call it, handle on X, which is the old new name for Twitter, obviously. But also, you can use Drinks Coach UK, or lowercase, if you want to contact the handles which specifically deal with this show. So what's today? Episode 29, I hear you ask. It is new wines from my favourite supplier in the UK, The Wine Society. Yes, the place where they have something like 3,000 different bins, all beautifully chosen, with, compared to other people, minimal profit margins. 150 years ago, the Wine Society was created to show, I suppose, that London was, in fact, or England in a greater sense, was a kind of an epicentre, a crossroads for the trading and love of wine. And that was 150 years ago at the Paris, the Great World Exhibition in Paris. And they brought out a new range to celebrate that. You have your normal own label Wine Society range, which is fab. Wine Society own label Gruner Veltliner. Now, hopefully I'll have on that show quite soon. It's like £7.50. Absolutely delicious Austrian white. And many other wines. Zorzal Garnacha from Navarra. Yes, Pierre, fantastic stuff. But there are other ranges too. There's the exhibition range, which is wines that have been selected, maybe small quantities of something quite special. They've gone, we can put that under our exhibition range, because this really is the epitome of what the buyers think each style represents. So if you've got the exhibition Gruner Veltliner, it'll have more character, more identity. If you have an exhibition Bordeaux from the Wine Society, it'll age as well as any other Bordeaux from whatever region it's from. If it's a Castillon, it'll behave like a Castillon. If it's a Haut Médoc, it'll age like an Haut Médoc. They're proper wines. They're not in any way a compromise. So what is the Generations range? Well, the Generations range is a range that's been obviously some years in the making, and all the buyers have been allowed to go to their favourite suppliers, or maybe certainly the most innovative suppliers, and create wines from scratch. I think that's the difference here. These wines are actually wines which have been conceived of. Maybe not so much with the first one, but, you know, it's Jo Locke, and she's absolutely amazing at what she does. And this may well have been 4 years in the pipeline. In fact, I imagine it probably is. But the idea is that the Generations range, they've gone to people and they've said, look, we'd like to make a wine that's the epitome of what the Wine Society stands about. It's partly the innovation of showing people wines they're not familiar with, but having the reliability of buying at such a high standard that people will just take your word for it and try them anyway. But also there's a few classics as well. I mean, I could have just got a Macon, I could have got a white Burgundy, I could have got, I think, a Chablis, I could have got a Bordeaux. And I felt that was all a bit kind of safe. So I've picked a few which I think are a little bit more, not necessarily modern, but certainly more fringe. The ones that will probably sell less in the lineup, which I think deserve probably a bigger ear. But also, I think I picked them on the basis I think that I feel passionately about their story. So I've picked 5 out of a range. I don't know how many there are in the range. I'm guessing it's around 10, maybe a few more. But here we are with a fizz, a white, a red, and 2 different fortifieds, which sounds to me like the perfect gift for somebody if they have a birthday in spring. So here we've got some wines which I'm really excited about trying. So we're going to start off with the first one, and it's the fizz. So this is the Wine Society's Generation Series Crémant de Loire. Now, you know that there's been a lot of fizz on this show over the last 4 years, and if I bang on about anything, it's about how incredible value and how potentially high quality the other sparkling wines of France are. Crémant de Limoux, Blanc de Limoux, Crémant d'Alsace, Crémant de Loire, Crémant de Bordeaux, Crémant de Bourgogne, of course, Saint-Péray. I mean, they just go on, it's endless, the list. But they don't have to be champagne, that's the point. And this is a wine made by the Gratien family, who've been making, ironically, the Wine Society champagne forever. And Gratien and Meyer, which is their Loire contingent, their Loire arm of the family, have been making their Crémant de Loire for probably just as long. My parents in our restaurant, when we had a restaurant which I fondly remember in the New Forest back in the day, it's just been resold, which brought back a lot of good and bad memories, I suppose. We used to have a fizz which I loved because it came in such a baroque bottle. This kind of like almost, it was kind of bottle that Dracula would drink blood out of. This big gothic sort of like bottle, which was sort of half the shape of a Frascati or a Chianti Fiasco. Had kind of hips to it. Very, very strange bottle, but very dark and big gothic letters. And it was called Cuvée Flamme. The cuvée, the flame, and it was largely made from a red grape variety. And people, I don't think we realise how fantastically good Cabernet Franc works in sparkling wine. But that wine, I think, was 95% Cabernet Franc and about 5% Chenin Blanc. I don't know if they still make it. But this is Cuvée Flamme, and it is a vintage, 2020, very warm vintage. I'm not sure what that's going to do to the style, but this wine's obviously been held back. And if Joe has been involved, Joanna, forgive me, has been working with Gratien all this time to release a wine 4 years after it's been selected and blended. This is a very exciting drink indeed. The other thing is that when you drink sparkling wines from the Loire, they're almost always 100% Chenin Blanc. There might be a little bit of Chardonnay in there. But generally speaking, if you're drinking Saumur, it's Chenin Blanc. If you're drinking Crémant de Loire, it's mostly Chenin Blanc. Well, this wine is mostly Chenin. I think it's about half or just over. But then a quarter of it is Cabernet Franc, the red grape I just told you, which gives wonderful delineated, what I call Bauhaus edges, rectilinear crispness to the wine. I know it sounds weird, but I've said it more than once. I do taste wine in shapes, weirdly. But it has this wonderful kind of pointed mathematical geometry to it, crispness, which I think sparkling wine needs. I don't like wobbly, amorphous sparkling generally. I want them to be precise and refreshing, and have detail, like a Canaletto, not like a Munch. So this is a Chenin with some Cabernet Franc. There's also some Chardonnay in here, and there's a little bit of Grolleau as well, about 9% And Grolleau is a grape variety which I think has proven to be slightly better than people ever believed it could be if it's very old vine and very low yield. But it's just a kind of workaday rosé variety from the Loire. But for whatever reason, Joe and the people at Gratien felt it was important to include it. So let's see what this tastes like. 2020, I mentioned that before. So this wine is as old as any Cru or so-called Grand Marque, or as it used to be called, Grand Marque champagne. If you bought Bollinger at the same age, if you bought, I imagine Long Perrier wouldn't be as old as this. I did ask, I think I heard someone say, how much is it, Joe? Yeah, well, I'm going to taste it first. See if it's worth the money. There we are. This is the packaging. I like that. I like the detail. I like the fact it has information. It has this generations kind of unifying strip there. But on the back it has all the information you could possibly want from this bottle and enjoy it. We're looking out for colour. Well, it does have some colour, some development, some patina. It's certainly not as silvery white as some sparkling wines would be from the Loire. Oh, goodness. Wow. Yes, it's very Chenin, but apart from that, there was a very much grander sense of development and complexity on the nose. I've recently drunk some really extraordinary sparkling Chenin from the Swartland in South Africa. Some of them, which were really expensive, but they have this amazing intensity on the nose, which makes almost all the hairs inside your sort of like olfactory system tingle. Also, I promised some of my friends, Tidy Bear out there, Julian, I promise I'll keep this under half an hour. I know we're about 30 minutes or 10 minutes in already. But I think 40 minutes was too long and that was the last one. Enough's enough. Let's run it back to 30 minutes. So, Loire, mid-France. The wine has wonderful poise. Lovely tart finish, like biting into a dessert discovery russet apple. It's like a russet aigremont, which is that lovely, wonderful, nutty, crab apple pithy flavour. Oh, that's delicious. Oh, that's Moorish. Oh. Palpably dry as well, mouth-wateringly dry. Cool. Just checking, I can't believe the price. It's only been off the screen about 2 minutes, and I couldn't believe the price. Yes, it's under £15, £14.50. With the price that sparkling wine costs these days, at £14.50, I dare you to find a better sparkling wine than that. Wow. Cool, wish they'd been around at Christmas, but it will be around next Christmas. It's also tight and coiled and what they call serré, tight locked, enough that I think this wine would in fact develop and improve and get more beguiling over the years. So maybe its best days are ahead of it. Maybe next Christmas it's a time to enjoy that. But this wine has enough weight to drink as a winter fizz, but is absolutely stunning if you can't afford or don't want to spend the kind of money you'd have to on English or champagne fizz. I don't think you could do much better than this for £14.50. Go out and try it at least. Fantastic. Delicious. Well done, Mrs. Locke. Thank you. Moving on to another one of the buyers. There's kind of one from each buyer. In fact, Joe does have two. But the next one is another chap that I'm very fond of vicariously, very fond of through what he buys and the way he talks about his drinks and his latent passion for everything he does. And that's Marcel Alford-Williams. Marcel buys Germany and he buys the Rhone and the country wines of France. And I think Joe buys South Africa and the Loire. I think she buys Portugal as well, I can't remember. And Marcel buys Rhone, Alsace, and the country wines of South France and the Rhone. I think between them, they've got all my favourite jobs at the Society. So you can just tell by the shape of this bottle it's going to be something interesting, right? Possibly not dry. Well, this one is dry. It's a Trocken. And I think it might even be like fancy Trocken, like Erste which means first growth, or Premier Cru, or Grosser Gewächs, something of that standard. It certainly comes from a producer which makes wines that good. It's from the Rheinpfalz. It's from a producer, indeed, from Bettina, Burklin von Guradze. Guradze, come on. But Bettina is current household sort of like head. She's the matriarch and current control of Burklin Wolf. Yes, Burklin, Burklin, Wolf, as in woo. Yeah, I don't sound like that. Okay, so Burklin Wolf. This is from the Pfalz. Have been making extraordinary wine in Germany for 400, count them, 400 years. And this comes from the Wachenheimer Grosslager, it is Grosslager, and they have wines. This is from near Bad Dürkheim, which is an area which certainly now that it's been re-established and recategorized in the modern German way, which means that a lot of German wine used to be very sweet is now made bone dry because it just makes sense that they make better wines dry, and they're robust and they've got plenty of ripeness now because they age for a long time and they just taste incredible. Bad Dürkheim around there is where it's like the epicenter of a lot of the very, very finest vineyards you can find in the Pfalz. And this wine is from 2021, and I think 2021. Now we're looking back with 3 years of delayed gratification, I think can be written down as one of the great recent all-time vintages in Germany. I really do. And they must have kept this back specially. So Marcel, well done, sir. So there's a Burklin Wolf Riesling, and it just says Wachenheim. There you go. Enough said. German wines have got too many syllables anyway, haven't they? So there you go. Let's try this. Well, what am I expecting from this? Well, let's call Bethlehem the Rheingau. There will be a taste of minerality, almost not rusty, but depending on how far east you go, a sparkle of acidity amongst quite a dense, controlled wine. So a wine that has some almost metallic mineral component, very minerally, but can have these sparkles of quartz in them, which is indeed quartz in the soil. But then this breadth and richness. If you go up to the west and further north, you go up to the Ahr and out to the Mosel and the Saarlouver, you get wines which are more linear, they're cooler, crisper, slightly less ripe, more basalt, more wet slate, more energized in a very sharp and refined way. I suppose one way of looking at it is that Rheingau and a Mittelmosel wine of equal quality, the Rheingau's like a 2B pencil, right? And the Mittelmosel will be like a 3H. It makes thinner, sharper lines. So here we go. Oh, wow. I've been waiting. I've been counting the hours since this arrived. I think it arrived about 48 hours, these wines. And this is the one I'm most looking forward to trying. This smells darling, and it does smell great. If you think about the great producers in the Pfalz, include Burklin, Von Bull, people like that, they all have this wine with deep, musty but clean soil characters. It smells like terracotta soil, like dirt, that very clean. If you stand in the middle of an open, rugged part of Australia, let's say Coober Pedy, where the open mines are, and let the sun come down, there's a bit of moisture in the soil. That's what it smells like walking into a potter. It's like almost mud, but clean. I think it needs some more time. This is a wine that's still, I wouldn't say angry, but it's still finding its place. I mean, it's already 3 years old, but this wine still has so much fight left in it. The nose is very fragrant, very aromatic. I'll go with something like a tarte à l'oignon, maybe something like even like a quiche with this, or maybe some fatty fish. This would be really nice with some I don't know, some mackerel or something like that. I had some Swedish matches herring yesterday. I imagine this would be a very nice match, but it has a wonderfully sharp, squeezed lime over your tongue dryness. Tart, zesty. A lot of malic acid. That's a bite of crab apple again. Green apple. But still austere. I think it will actually gain weight with time. Still just needs to behave itself a little bit. It's staring at you back up the glass saying, what are you looking at? I think this wine will be really lovely in 6 or 7 months. I don't know how long it goes from the bottle, but that's a wine with great promise. And as good German Rieslings are, they are going up in price as people appreciate them around the world. And this is £19. This is an absolutely fair price at £19. I think we'd be very lucky to find wines like this under 25. I don't know, if you've not come back and not rediscovered German wine, or indeed never been into German wine because of the catastrophe of the 70s and all the rubbish we used to drink from there, time to look, because you're going to run out of, like with everything else, you're going to run out of options because they're getting expensive very fast. And I think this wine is really lovely. Okay, that's absolutely delicious. I need to find a bottle opener. Right, moving on. So we've done a sparkling, we've done a white. How are we doing for time? Got to move. Okay, so this is from the Produttori di Manduria. This is from Puglia. This is a grape variety which is not just the English, and a lot of the educated English, because I know it's very popular at the wine sock, very popular at Waitrose when I was a buyer there as well. But also when I go to places like the Alps and I talk to Germans and Austrians, they're drinking gallons of this stuff. This is indeed the grape variety that is Primitivo. And Primitivo is kind of like it's like the Malbec for the educated. I don't mean that in the sense that Malbec can't be as good, because it can be better. But Malbec, people tend to drink New World wine now because the world's decided to drink New World wine, English wine, then Chilean wine, then Australian wine, then South African wine. So it's easier to sell an Argentine bottle of Malbec than it is to get people, in most cases, to come back and buy wine from Italy, because it's just such a confusing story. But this is the OG. This is the original gangster, Primitivo. There were different kinds of Primitivo, and this is from Manduria, and this is Primitivo di Manduria, which was, in fact, a grape variety which originated from Dalmatia, over the sea, over the Adriatic, in the gorgeous peninsula of Paliashatz. Paliashatz is, and Dingach, some of the most beautiful vineyards in the world, some of the hottest vineyards in the world. And some of these wines get huge heats. There's a variety there called Pfalz Mali, which is virtually the only variety. Dark wine that goes with really powerful, full-flavoured things. It goes great with roast mutton and things like that, and gamey foods, and beef and that sort of thing. Pfalz Mali, one of its parents is Dobricic, and Dobricic is in fact Primitivo di Manduria. I think it's Dobricic. Ours is on a postcard. I'm pretty sure it's Dobricic. Am I right, guys? Which is one of the parents of Pfalz Mali in Croatia. But more importantly, this wine, which was planted in Puglia, I imagine, so people, when they got there, they could fill up if they drank the wine on the way. There were vineyards to fill up and stock on boats that maybe are doing the Arctic slog or maybe even the slave routes. Who knows? I can't say I know enough about the history, but they would have gone all the way around Cape Horn and settled as some of the Benedictine monks in the 1810s, the 1830s, in what is now modern-day California, where they planted Primitivo de Manduria, and it's now called Zinfandel. Yes, same grape variety, but specifically this type. So will it have things in common with Zinfandel? Sure it will, but the way they make the wine will be a bit different. In the New World, wine's tend to be made with as much fruit extract as possible, a little bit of new oak, so the vanilla and the blueberries and the cooked jam and the mulberries of Zinfandel, which is quite enticing when it's made into a dark red wine, not one of those Mickey Mouse sweet rosés used to make in the 80s. We're talking about Zinfandel being made into a dark red, which is what it should be. If you make it in large open botte and allow it to settle down a bit and lose some of its primary fruits and develop something a little bit more poetic, what does it give you? Well, this is 2022. I imagine this wine is mostly concrete. It's designed to be drunk relatively young, and this wine is a wonderfully inexpensive, I think it's the cheapest of the new generation's lineup, wonderfully inexpensive, £10.50 a bottle, and bought by the lovely Sarah Knowles, Master of Wine. And you know, I've mentioned her before, she buys some extraordinary Italian wines for the Society. Still enjoying the last few 2020 Chianti Classicos I bought in the summer. See, what's not to like? My wife and I were snowed in, having gone to see the Four Hills ski jumping in Innsbruck a few years ago. And we were stuck in this wonderful little elm, and it was just us. Everyone else had left because they'd heard that there might be avalanche danger and stuff. So we were staying there with the owner and his lovely wife. And the owner used to be the kind of Fluff Freeman, the Vance, the Tommy Vance of Austrian radio, and was a huge rock fan, rock knowledge, had every album you can imagine by Deep Purple and everything. So we had lots and lots to talk about, but he also had a love for food and wine, and his house wine was a Primitivo, and it seemed to be all that he drank. He had a very good one, which he had shipped himself. And we were just snowed in, my wife and I, and Emma and I, he said, "Lord, what do you want something to eat tomorrow? Because we're going to be all stuck in here." And I said, "Yeah, we need something to eat." So he got some calf's liver from the farmer next door, and said that there was a young calf who'd been grown throughout the summer, who had been slaughtered just before the snows came in January. And we ate this most stunning calf's liver on buttery, delicious onions, on a lovely rösti, on a sort of potato cake, and drank a Primitivo. And I shall never forget that meal. I don't think my wife will either. It was very special. I'm rabbiting on again. I keep on doing that on this show. I do apologise. But there's no one here to tell me to shut up. So, what I would say about Primitivo Manduria is it's wonderfully intense. And it's not as gushy and as overtly fruity and tarty as other species of Primitivo. From Manduria, you get more tightness, more tartness, more acidity, more of the sort of sloes and damsons. Clearly potential to age here for a few years. But there's still a wonderful mid-palate sweetness, which would do wonders with a southern Italian or Sicilian sheep's cheese or something. That'd be really wonderful. But there you go. 10.50 of anybody's money. Again, it's only going to get better. That will taste better, I swear to God, in a year's time. 2022. So we're looking at 2020. That's just been bottled, I'm imagining, off the lees. 2021, 2022. Now, we're going back to the old basics, the old classics. But at the same time, I think this is wonderful that they don't forget at the Wine Society that after 150 years, some of the wines that the members love, that we love as members of the Society, are really quite traditional wines. And we have two absolute stunners here. One that was selected indeed by Tim Sykes. He's a Spanish selector, so he bought this sherry, which we'll come on to in a minute. It's a off-dry, a medium sherry style. I think what they used to call, at the turn of the last century, brown sherry. And then Miss Jo Locke has talked to a really fantastic, I want to say new super porthouse which is Quinta de Vale Meão, which makes some really, really beautiful wines. It's a private small estate. This wine is based on the really brilliant 2018 vintage. It's one of the real cracker vintages we've had recently. There have been very few bad ones, but 16 and 17 and 18 and 20 were all brilliant. And 19, to be fair. All good. But this wine's from 2018, but it's been freshened up with some really fresh, bright ruby port from 2022, I think, or 21. Has to be 2 years old to be called port, so I'm guessing it's 21. So this is it. This is Generations Reserve Port. Should we do that first? I think we will. I think we'll do the port first. Yeah. So a whole bottle of port, 20 quid. Now, port's going through the roof. If you can find port under £20 and it's from a good vintage that you like, I strongly recommend you buy it up. It's not going to fall over anytime soon. It should keep for a few years. And in cases where it's unfiltered and it throws a crust, it'll keep for 10. No problems at all. But this is basically a 2018 late bottle vintage, because that was about 6 years ago. Let me cut myself there. I need a port glass. Let's use this. It's got a driven cork, which is very promising. Miss Locke, maybe you can tell us whether this wine's been crusted or not. I'll find out when I get to the bottom. I have cut myself a bit. But this is a wine that may well improve in the rack for a few years. Almost no port doesn't. But if she's bought this, it has to have been something that she didn't want to walk away from. When I think about the buying power that Mrs. Locke has, Mrs. Locke, at the Wine Society, and how much interesting port we've bought over the years, there must be something. There must be a story, a backstory to this. I don't know, which culminates in this being her best solution to the generation brief, which is making wines with people that they've had great relationships with over the years, but actually collaborating to make great wine rather than just picking something they've already got. So it's got some lovely colour. It looks like great, lovely, fresh port. Very, very little age on the rim, but just enough to show me this wine isn't going to be brutal. It's not going to be harsh and spirity. Gosh. Well, there's a surprise. I think I might have to put that in decanter as well. I think it needs to be opened up. But Emma's bought some nice cheese, so we'll have a crack at that in a minute. Some port houses, going to pick them out quickly. Fonseca, Graham, I think, tend to look sweeter than others. War maybe a little bit more as well, but War has a dry herby component to it. Dow, Taylor, maybe slightly to a less extent, Quinta de Noval, tend to taste more linear, more tight, more fragrant, more floral, less sweet. I think maybe because the acidity feels more prominent. I don't know if it's in the blend of the varieties or what. This wine is lovingly in the middle somewhere, and it has slightly red fruits. Quinta de la Rosa, private estate owned by a Swiss family. Again, I think it has similar red fruits. The old vineyard of Carlem, which I think has gone to rack and ruin, Quinta de Foz. I don't know who's looking after now. This reminds me of those wines which are on the bank near Meão. I don't know where this wine comes from. I'm going to look them up later, but I'll probably find it somewhere 2 hours further away. But if it is from where I think it is, this wine really speaks of the specific sites in Portugal and in Porto where it comes from. Vibrant, lively, precocious, sweet, delicious. One to drink or to lay down. Really, really fun. It's quite a cold evening, but this wine is just right temperature-wise. I wouldn't serve it chilled. I would serve it, like a tawny. I would definitely serve this at the temperature it is on the side of the table, of the side of your dining room. There you go, 20 quid. So we've hit the half an hour mark. I'm just going to quickly do the last wine that I've picked from this box. Hazel, I hope you've enjoyed this, and all the buyers out there, and Ewan and anybody else who might have seen this. So what is this? It's half a bottle of sherry. Sherry was my little secret friend, really. When I was a buyer at Waitrose for many years, and before that Sainsbury's, I bought a lot of port. sherry. When I was at Obbins as a manager, you could buy half a bottle of Gonzales Baez Apóstoles, which is, I think, £28.99 a bottle now, for about £4.49. Nobody else wanted to drink sherry in those days. But I'm pleased to see that sherry is getting the credit that it deserves. And when that means that everyone has to pay 3 times or 4 times more for it, I think we'll appreciate it more. Because it was so cheap to start with, I can still afford to drink this stuff now. So this wine, for a half bottle, I think it's £16.50. Yeah, £16.50. Tim has selected this for one of my favourite porthouses, Williams and Humbert. Very old school. And they have this really lovely old 90-barrel Solera. That's kind of a row of barrels which get mixed together to make this wine. And the end issue from this Solera is at least 16 years old. So imagine, this wine's at least 16 years old. Where does that put it? 2008? Was that something like that? I think. Which is wonderful. And there'll be a much older port in there. As a sherry, I've got to stop saying that. It's older sherry. But also, this is interesting because it's made from the classic variety Palomino, the dry sherry. But it's had in every añada, which is the wine that's added to this row of barrels to continue this very, very consistent, high quality, complex blend. So the drink tastes great continually. They add a little bit of Pedro Ximenez, which is the grape variety, which very, very super sweet sherries are made from. I imagine you don't need much, probably 6 or 7%, but you end up with a wine which is then now a medium sherry. It's not bone dry. I think people who are drinking Amontillado, with the church vicar or with their grandparents or something around the house, they'll probably find that people still buy medium Amontillado because in this country we drank most of Amontillado with a little bit of sugar in it, or a little sweetness to it. And this is made in that style. But it is the Solera. It's not blended together commercially. It's not made commercially sweet. This is a fully harmonious, wonderful drink. And I think there's a wine that comes out of this Solera, could be right, could be wrong, Mr. Sykes, you could confirm this, called As You Like It. And I think that might even be the name of the Solera, but As You Like It is a wine which costs a little bit more money than this, and you can buy it from one of the supermarkets. I'm not telling you which, you'll have to look for it. But it's about a tenner, about 5 or more per half bottle. But £16.50 buys you a half bottle, so that's £33, buys you a bottle of wine which is well over 16 years old, and in fact has components in it which I don't doubt are probably about 30 years old or 40 years old. So let's have a look at this. I absolutely love sherry, and this is really the first proper sherry I've drunk over the whole winter period. It's got a lovely deep colour. This isn't really a capita, it's a small whiskey glass actually, but it seemed just about right. I don't want to drink too much of this. Oh God, it smells so good. Who could possibly not like sherry? You don't start off liking sherry, but you don't start off liking Roquefort cheese either. And if you give a child a choice between a bar of chocolate and a lump of Roquefort for doing a good job of tidying his bedroom, you'd have to be quite posh, quite middle class to say, oh, I'd rather have the Roquefort, Daddy. Anyway, so. Magical. There is a medium Amontillado being sold by the Society already. It's probably similar price. I think it's the same price for a whole bottle as this is for a half. But pay peanuts, get monkeys. If you want something really, really good from sherry, and an own label from the Wine Society is being sold to you for £16.50 for a half bottle, you've got to know there's going to be something really magical and special in it. And this wine is incredible. Okay, how do I describe it? On the nose, it smells of walnut oil, balsamic vinegar, dried Morello cherries. There's a silky palate and a thick texture where this wine is concentrated over years. Salted caramel, cocoa butter, Ethiopian coffee. I say that because it's quite a winey coffee, not a chocolatey coffee. Flashes of raspberry liqueur. The amount of flavour you get out of a tiny sip of this compared to virtually anything else available in the world for that price is peerless. So thanks to the Wine Society for doing something exciting this year to keep us all guessing. But we had a Gratien Meyer, Crémant de Loire, 2020. We had Wachenheimer Pfalz Riesling 2021 from Burklin Wolf. We had from Produttori de Manduria a Primitivo of really high quality but modernity as well. Quinta de Vale, a Meão port, and this wonderful Solera Williams Humbert sherry, which they called medium sweet. That's all they had to say. See you next time.